Begin the PiskelApp project by navigating to the assignment on your classwork tab. If you look under Media Boot Camp, you'll see the PiskelApp Boot Camp. You can click View Assignment to see the assignment page separately, or you can scroll down to see the link to the PiskelApp website. You want to click Create Sprite. Your workspace is fairly basic. We have our toolbars on the left, our color picker underneath the toolbar, the pen size or line width is at the top from 1 to 4 pixels. We're going to ignore these two frames for right now. On the right hand side, we're also going to ignore these set of frames, and we're going to pay attention to these pop-out panels. You want to first go to Resize, and you're going to change your size. So your default size is 32 by 32. We're going to resize our canvas to 64 by 64. You'd simply type 64 in the top box, and the box underneath it also will change to 64 because you have maintain aspect ratio checked off, which means it will keep it a square. In the future, if you do a media exploration with this program, you could uncheck maintain aspect ratio to be able to create a rectangle. Click Resize. To verify that you've resized your document or your canvas, you can look on the bottom right corner and you'll see 64 by 64. Your canvas is currently transparent. There are no pixels at all. If I have a 1 pixel pen tool size, I can see that following my cursor around is 1 square. I'm not pressing down, I'm just looking at the cursor. Every image that you see on the internet is made out of pixels. If you really zoom in on a digital artwork or a digital photo, you'll see little tiny squares of color. A pixel is the smallest possible unit of information in a digital image. So what we're painting is actually quite small, and I'm going to teach you how to scale it up when you save the final product. You have your pen tool selected, and you have any size of pen you would like to use. You get to choose. You'll notice when I hover over my tools, it will tell me the name of the tool. It will also show me a keyboard shortcut in brackets. And if there are modifier keys, it will show the modifier key and give an explanation of what it does. Just the pen tool for now. Change your color by clicking on the primary color. Primary as in your color you are primarily using, not red, yellow, blue. It's black by default. We're going to click on it. In our color picker, we can change the hue by adjusting this slider. The hue, spelled H-U-E, is the pure color. So any color you'd like to use. We're going to make a very basic landscape for this boot camp activity. You will not be evaluated on the aesthetics or visual appeal of your landscape. You simply need to have visual evidence of using the tools and processes that are covered in this boot camp. I'm going to use a very light blue. You'll notice that in this box, directly to the left of the hue slider, you can click around to change how intense or how diluted your color is. So the pure color, or pure white, or pure black, or some shade or tint of your color. With my pen tool, I'm going to draw from left to right, making sure I touch from edge to edge. I'm going to freehand a gently sloping curve, kind of in the middle-ish. It's important to go from edge to edge because you want to be able to fill in this area on the bottom. Your paint bucket, shortcut letter B, behaves by filling in areas defined by boundaries. So the edges of the digital canvas is obviously a boundary, but also shifts in color it recognizes as a boundary. If I didn't go from edge to edge, it would fill the entire canvas. If you click, it fills it with the color. You'll notice that I have a grid on my screen. That's because in my preferences, I have told the application to show me the grid. On the far right, if you hover over the gear, that is your preferences slide out menu. At the top, these are tabs, so I could click on grid. And I have enable grid checked off. If I didn't, I wouldn't be able to see the grid. So it's a preference. Whether or not you want to have that is up to you. I'm going to switch to the stroke tool. It kind of looks like a pen doing a downhill ski. Shortcut letter L. I often refer to this as the line tool because it makes straight lines. It has a modifier key of shift, so I can hold my shift key down to draw perfectly straight lines. I'm going to choose a different color. I'm going to go with a slightly darker shade of what I was drawing with. You can literally pick any color you want as long as you're using different colors so I can see what you're creating. You don't have to create exactly what I am, but you do have to use the tools and show me that you're using the techniques. So for example, the modifier key. Again, I'm going to draw from left to right. You could make it go at an angle, or you can make it go completely straight. Hold down your shift key, and it does make a completely straight line. I can also pivot, so I'm holding down my shift key with my left hand, I'm holding down my touchpad with my index finger, and I'm moving my cursor with my middle finger. Digital art is a two-handed job. So even though that's at an angle, you can clearly see I use the shift key because it has even breaks. It goes 5 pixels and then slopes down. Use your fill bucket again. We're going to choose the circle tool, shortcut letter C. The modifier key is shift, and it tells you if I hold shift down, it will keep a 1-to-1 ratio. That is, it will be a circle and not an oval. I'm going to choose a different color. I'm making a moon, so I'm going to go with a gray. And just for illustration purposes, if I just click and drag, I could make an oval moon, right? To undo something on a MacBook, it's Command Z as in zebra. On a Chromebook, it's Control Z as in zebra. So that will undo something. If I hold Shift down, it will create a perfect circle. The circle, again, it's pixelated because that is the painting style that we're currently working with. Use your fill bucket and fill it in. You want to fill the sky with a color. Again, you can make a fantastical landscape. It doesn't have to be a realistic landscape. You can do things like put details on your landscape. You don't have to do just what I'm doing. So if you do want to make this a more aesthetically appealing artwork, I could, for example, put some crater marks on my moon using just my pen tool. You don't have to. It's not being evaluated on aesthetics. I'm really looking for, did you use the tools? Is there visual evidence? Okay. The next tool we're going to use is the vertical mirror pen, shortcut letter V. There are 2 modifier keys, but we're not going to use them. We're just going to use the vertical mirror pen, which means if we draw on the right of the canvas, it will mirror on the left and vice versa. I'm going to make a tree. If you would like to make something else that you can think of that is symmetrical on both sides, you are welcome to. The vertical mirror pen will always mirror on the dead center of your canvas. So if I'm drawing, and I know roughly where the center of my canvas is, that's not a huge problem. However, if I want to draw a tree over here with the vertical mirror pen, it's going to mirror on the other side of my canvas, which isn't a huge deal because I can just draw the other half of the tree myself and get 2 trees that way instead of 1 symmetrical tree. I don't especially like those trees, so I'm going to press Command Z. Remember, on a Chromebook, it's Control Z, Z as in zebra. To fill this in with my fill bucket, remember, it's going to recognize that color shifts are different shapes, so I have to click in each shape within my tree to be able to fill it. The last tool I'm going to use is the rectangle tool, shortcut letter R, and if I hold Shift, I would get a perfect square. I'm going to use brown. To find brown with this kind of color situation, we're going to go to orange. We're going to make it darker or lighter depending on what kind of brown you want to create. You'll notice in the color picker it is saving swatches of colors that I've used so far in this painting, which is very helpful. So if I, for example, wanted to go back and add more craters on my moon, I have that exact moon crater color already there. I'll draw my rectangle and then fill it in. Okay, I can erase things. So if I have my eraser tool, shortcut letter E, the size of the eraser is also influenced by that pen size selection at the top. When I erase things, I have to be mindful of the fact that it's going to erase all of the pixels. Sometimes the better option is to paint over the pixel. So if I wanted to go back to black, I could adjust it that way. But what I've just done has kind of removed the evidence that I used, that vertical mirror pen. So just be mindful that while you can make creative choices for this boot camp activity, I do need to see evidence that you've used these tools. So we have evidence of the pen tool, evidence of the fill bucket, evidence of the stroke tool, the circle tool, the vertical mirror pen, and the rectangle. You can use other elements if you want to play around with the tools in this program. A lot of them I won't be able to see visual evidence that you've done so, and we're just keeping it fairly basic for this activity. You can certainly make this a more aesthetically appealing piece if you would like to, but at the bare minimum, I do need to see that you've explored these different tools in some kind of visual form that I can reference. Okay. To save this artwork is very specific. You cannot turn in a screenshot when you're making digital art. Part of the media skills for any digital art program is showing me that you understand how to properly save the file. And it does vary or change depending on the kind of artwork that you're making and the program that you're using. To save this particular image, I need to go to my pop-out panels on the right. And your first instinct is to go to the floppy disk, right? That's the icon for save, and it's even called save. However, if I click on that, a Piskel file is not something that you can import into a Google Doc or add to a Google form, so that's not especially helpful. And saving it in your browser is only a way of looking at it within your browser. Again, not helpful. So we don't want to go to the floppy disk. You actually do want to go to export, which has a little picture of a mountain range with a sun, like a snapshot. On export, we're going to change the resolution. I ignore the scale because it doesn't seem to be consistent. My resolution should be 500. Okay, so whatever number that was, make it 500. It's incredibly important to make this larger when you save it so that I can see your details and your evidence. If you turn in a really super tiny 64 by 64 pixel image, it's hard for me to evaluate, did you use all of the tools that I asked you to use? At the top of our download buttons, we have a series of tabs. It doesn't look like they are tabs, but they are. We want to choose PNG or PNG, and we're going to click on the very last download button. Because I'm on a MacBook, it saves directly to my hard drive. In fact, on a Chromebook, I'm pretty sure it also saves to your hard drive. The uploading process for putting it onto your Google Doc is a little bit different if you're on a MacBook or a Chromebook, but it's not vastly different. I'm going to show you how to upload them. So I would go to Classroom. I would go to my class, whichever class you're actually in that's doing this. You would turn it in on the boot camp activity. You have on your interface, and I'm on the teacher interface here, you would click on View Assignment. I'm not going to because it has student information there. But you would click View Assignment, and then in the upper right area of your screen, you would have your name - artwork. I did goof with this assignment. I was supposed to put the boot camp doc, but it's not a huge deal. It's just instead of having the media focus here, it says project name. It's not a project, it's a boot camp activity. So you type your name, your homeroom teacher's name, and the boot camp activity was digital painting. You could also just say it's PiskelApp. PiskelApp is the only digital painting boot camp activity we've done so far. You want to click in the white space. In the middle of this toolbar, you have Insert Image. And whether you're on a Chromebook or a MacBook, you want to choose Upload from Computer. On a MacBook, I am looking in my Downloads folder by default. You can also navigate to your Downloads folder here on the left. On the Chromebook, you will probably be looking at your downloads or your images, but you want to locate your image. Please be very mindful of what you're turning in. I've had students already turn in things that are not their artwork, but clearly worksheets or homework from other classes. I'm going to click Open, and then I would click Turn In. Again, because I'm on the teacher interface and this is the master copy, I can't do that, and I'm not going to leave my image there. so I'm going to delete that. Turning this in on the Google form is likewise also easy. So for your class participation, you go to your exit slip, choose your homeroom teacher. This was a media boot camp, and it was a digital paint activity. You would add the file. So you'd select file from your device again and navigate to where your file is. So you would click on the file, choose open, and upload. Explain what you learned today and how will this knowledge affect the choices you make in future classes. So you could talk about knowledge that you gained in terms of communicating a certain idea, feeling, or meaning. You could talk about your own preferences when it comes to materials and processes. Did you like painting with PiskelApp? Is it something you would choose if you had the choice, or is it something you would avoid, or does it kind of depend on what artwork you are going to be creating? And then click submit when you're done. When you want to make another Piskel artwork, let's say you're just making one for fun, you could click create sprite in the upper right and it makes a new tab with a blank canvas on it. Your canvas size would be 32 by 32 again. What I've done is I've gone and I've told my default size to be 64 and set default. This works because I have signed in also with my school email account.